Hey Pyro, today we're going to take one of these really cute little wood canvases that are basswood and beautiful artist quality, and we are going to burn one of these cute patterns onto it, and we are going to turn it into a lovely little shelf sitter. If you have the Crate Club subscription box, this is the tutorial that's going to show you how to use everything in your box. If you don't have one of those, you're going to have to get all the materials yourself or just go subscribe. The link will all be in the description if you want that. We are also going to be using some of the tools from the Woodburning kit and accessories toolkit that is an add-on that you can get with the Crate Club subscription. If you're new here, I'm Janny Lisenby, your Pyro professor from Burn Savvy. Let's burn. So the first thing that you want to do is actually, before you do anything else, is decide which side you want to burn your design on. These canvases are artist quality and they are designed to have this side on display. This side is not intended to be on display, but I love the way that this looks because it looks like it has a frame already around it, and I think that's pretty fun. However, because this side is not designed to be in the front, sometimes you have little spots that need sanding or you have little bits of glue here that show up. If that bothers you, just use this side, okay? Because this is the side that it was designed for. But I'm going to do this side because I think it looks cute. I'm just going to go ahead and sand it. And if you have the Woodburning kit, that is an additional thing that you can add on to your subscription box, the Crate Club box, then this will be in your kit. If you don't have one of these, you can actually order these separately from the subscription box. And you want to sand in the direction of the wood grain whenever possible. All right, once you have sanded the wood, it is time to transfer your pattern. So to transfer the pattern, we're going to follow these instructions. And what we're going to do is cut this out in a rectangular shape. I like to just cut the words off there real fast, makes it go easy, or I should say it makes it go faster. And then you want to cut this down to fit in there. If you are doing it on this side, then you'll only need to trim the sides. You don't need to trim the top or the bottom or anything because that'll fit nicely in there. This one for sure, I'm gonna need to trim. It does not have to be perfect. It just needs to be small enough that it will fit in to the little box and that it will allow you to tape down one side. Taping down one side allows you to transfer the pattern without having to lose your place. It also keeps the pattern clean in case you want to reuse the pattern. I love that aspect. So then we're just going to tape down that one side using masking tape. You can use regular tape. You can use painter's tape. I typically like to use painter's tape, but we're going to use masking tape today. And I'm just going to tape it down across the top. Now, if you didn't leave enough space at the top, you can always tape it down on the sides. I just recommend that you tape down the side that's not your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I would tape down the left side. If you were left-handed, you would tape down the right side. Or you can just make it easy and tape down the top. Then you can just lift it wherever it needs to be. And I'm going to tape that in place. I think I like where that's at. So you can see the tape kind of comes up the side. That's okay. It's not going to be a problem. And you should have carbon paper that came in your subscription box. And you'll see that there's a matte finish side. It's kind of grayish. And the inside should be a nice dark black. This is what you want face down. Okay, you want the matte finish up and the shiny side face down. This is reusable. So you can see I've reused this one here. You'll have a fresh, clean one in your box, but you can reuse those. And I highly encourage you to do that. You're gonna take the shiny side down on the wood, face down on the wood. And you want the gray side up by the pattern. And what we're going to do here is we're going to trace it. So we're going to trace it using, you can use anything like a stylus. This one is an embossing tool or an embossing stylus. I really like these. These also come in the Woodburning kit that you can get in your add-on. Okay, now I'm going to start tracing this down. With this, I'm going to outline both the large sides of the letters, and then I'm only going to use one line for the thin parts. Just to give you an idea of what that looks like. See that? Oh. And I didn't have my paper far enough over, so that part got cut off. I'll just give that a quick little trace again. Okay, that looks much better. Now I'm gonna trace over the trees. And these do not have to be perfect. That's the beauty of working with trees. Trees are more natural. And so it's got those natural lines are a lot more forgiving. See how far I got on that? Right there. That's where I left off. Okay. Now, give it a quick look. Make sure you've got everything transferred that you want. My R over here turned out a little bit messy, so I might go over that with an eraser, but I think for the most part, I'm just going to be burning over that, and so it won't show. But if you're concerned, you can use the eraser. A sand eraser is what I highly recommend. And you can get those sand erasers in the Woodburning Tools and Accessories kit. Sand erasers are so nice. Okay, that is ready to burn. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off because I am satisfied with it. I don't think I missed anything. We're set. Ready to burn. Now it's time to choose your burner and the nib. Now, if you're using a Versatool like this one, then I would recommend using something like this. This is a flow point, and I'm going to be using this one, and I'm going to be using it at the heat up here at the red. Now, if you have a different burner, if you have a burner like this, then I would recommend using a nib like this. It's got a large round tip. And then that one you would just screw in just the same as you would with the Versatool. If you're using a wired nib machine, they kind of look like this. This one's a Coalwood. Then I would use something like this that has a ball point, or something like this that has the writing nib. Since this is sitting at the red, it's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes for the nib to heat up. So we'll give it some time and then we'll come back. Once I have given the burner some time to heat up, I like to snag my practice piece of wood and test out the heat. Now if you got the Crate Club box, you will have a fresh new clean practice piece. I just like to reuse them. I try to make sure that I'm frugal that way. So what I'm going to do is just test out the heat, and actually it feels like the nib is kind of loose. So what I want to do is I actually want to tighten that down with a set of pliers. So I'm going to very gently tighten that down. If you have a wire nib machine and the connection doesn't look good, then you'll probably want to turn it off, and then try to check all the connections. Press it in harder there, press it in harder there. I am good to go on this. Once you've practiced a little bit here on your piece to make sure that it's burning as hot as you would like, then you can pull out your project and start to burn. And I'm just going to be using some of the basic wood burning techniques. These are the classics that I always come back to. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull toward me, and I'm just gonna go down the base of this trunk. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to cover the subject. And then I'm gonna go back in and start tracing over all of those lines. Now it's gonna be a little bit tricky because you have that frame in the way. If you are doing it on the other side, if you're burning on this other side, I would highly recommend placing a book or something tall. I usually use a beanbag, but a beanbag won't be tall enough for this. So I'd place a book down and then a beanbag on top of that and place my hand there. Being on this side, I'm just gonna rest my hand here on the frame. All right, tree number 1 is done. And now I'm going to start on that middle tree. And something else to keep in mind is you're going to be filling this in. When you fill these in, go in the direction that it would naturally go. So don't just come over here and scribble side to side, because that's probably going to show. What you want to do is kind of move from the center and move downward and outward, so that way it looks like it's part of the tree. So if you can see the texture, they'll see that downward and outward motion to fill it in. And what I like to do is I like to kind of trace around it when I'm doing the line art. And then I like to fill it in, going the direction that the texture would naturally go. Now this is where you want to start burning in the direction that the branches would go. So these branches want to come down and out. So you'll want to go, and you can go back and forth. Some swinging is just fine here. You just want to make sure that that burner is moving in the direction of the texture of the tree. See how the texture here is visible? That's one of the beauties of a burn, and it's also one of the intricacies and tricky parts of a burn, is that you can see the direction that you went. So you can see if I went back and forth here, that would ruin the branch look. Another thing is, if you would rather not do big long strokes, smaller strokes tend to have less blobs and less mistakes. They tend to be easier to go slowly on, because if you don't go slow enough, you probably won't get these very dark. That's just part of wood burning. But if you do really long strokes, that can make it hard to get those darker lines in there. So don't be afraid to make them shorter. And there you have our trees all done. So now we're just going to add our lettering. And lettering can be a little bit tricky. If you're nervous about it, feel free to pull out your practice sheet again, and feel free to go over how you would need to move and things like that. So I'm just gonna jump straight in here. Do not be afraid to turn that wood so that you are working at an angle that is comfortable for you. That's huge. So I'm just using that touch stroke and the swinging stroke to make those nice and smooth. And I'm going to do all of my straight lines going this direction. I'm actually going to turn it upside down. It'll be easier for me to reach that way. And then just go back and forth over it smoothly. And then I'm going to trace around this and fill in the thick parts at the end. If you find that you need to not do those long lines, it's okay to do little swinging motions to go back and forth. That can also get you a nice clean line. Now we're going to start filling in those thicker letters. Another thing is to remember to go in the direction that you want the texture to look. So if you want to go along the lines, then do that with all of them. If you want to go crisscross to the side, do that with all of them, okay? If you're enjoying this tutorial so far, it would be amazing if you'd hit that like button. That lets YouTube know that this is something you want to see more of. And if you subscribe, you'll definitely get more workshops and tutorials like these from Burn Savvy. And our piece is burned. If you want to add something to the back, I typically have a branding iron that I will use to mark the back, or if you wanted to burn a different design or whatever on the back, this is the time to do it. You definitely want to seal it after all the burning is done. And I'm going to put this piece of cardboard down just to protect my table. If you have newspaper or anything like that, that'll work too. And then just place that on there. We're going to use our paintbrush and our sealant. Just give the sealant a quick stir and then start applying it in thin coats. Now you want to get it into those corners there pretty well and go back and forth. You want these to be fairly thin coats. You don't want this to be too thick, because if it's too thick, it will take forever to dry and it could crack a little bit. You don't want any of that cracking. Now, I did get a little bit of carbon right there on my paintbrush, so I'm just gonna dab that onto my scrap piece of cardboard there and finish getting this into those edges. And then you want to make sure that you come up the sides and do the entire thing. Now you're going to want to let that dry for about 2 hours and then give it a quick sanding and do 2 more coats, nice and thin like that. 1 or 2 more coats should do it. And then I'm going to take this and wrap it up in a grocery bag so that I don't have to rinse it in between all of my sealing sessions. Of course, if you don't have a grocery bag, you can just wash this with soap and water and let that dry for those 2 hours. So once you have let that dry for 2 hours, you need to give it a quick sanding and then put on a second coat. Once you've finished the 3rd coat, let it sit for 24 hours to fully cure. Then once it's dry, it's ready to go up on the shelf. So cute. I love this little winter decoration. If you haven't gotten your Crate Club subscription yet, go subscribe over at crateclub.burnsavvy.com. And if you are subscribed, make sure that you are getting the next month's box because it's gonna be a good one. Later, Pyro.